The bear had been tracking him for 3 miles through the Colorado Rockies before Vincent Stratton finally spotted the cave entrance hidden behind a curtain of frozen waterfall spray. It was January 1876, and the temperature had dropped so low that even his thick beard was crusted with ice. He ducked inside without hesitation, rifle raised, expecting to startle sleeping bats or maybe a mountain lion. What he found instead was a woman crouched in the shadows with a rusty knife in her trembling hand and eyes that held more fear than any wild animal he had ever encountered. "Don't come closer," she warned, her voice hoarse from disuse or cold or both. She was painfully thin, her blonde hair matted and tangled, her dress torn and filthy. But her green eyes blazed with desperate determination. Vincent lowered his rifle slowly, keeping his movements careful and deliberate. "I mean you no harm, miss, just trying to escape a bear that seems particularly interested in making me his supper." "A bear?" Her grip on the knife tightened. "How close?" "Close enough that we should probably block this entrance if you have got anything heavy nearby." He glanced around the cave, noting the small pile of firewood, a threadbare blanket, and precious little else. "How long have you been living here?" She did not answer, just pressed herself further back against the cave wall. Outside, Vincent could hear the bear snuffling around the entrance, its massive body blocking what little light filtered through. "Listen," Vincent said quietly, setting his rifle down but keeping it within reach. "Whatever you are running from, it cannot be worse than freezing to death in this cave. And that bear is not going anywhere soon." "I'm hiding," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Vincent looked at her properly then, taking in the bruises on her wrists, the way she held herself like something broken trying to stay together through sheer will. He had seen that look before, on runaway slaves before the war, on Chinese railroad workers fleeing brutal bosses, on women escaping violent men. "Not anymore," he said firmly. "Not if I have anything to say about it." The bear eventually lost interest and wandered off, but by then Vincent had coaxed her name out of her. Rose Lancaster. She was 22 years old, he learned, just a year younger than himself. She had been living in the cave for nearly 2 weeks, surviving on melted snow and the handful of supplies she had managed to grab before fleeing Paradise, a mining town about 15 miles southeast. "My husband," she said, staring at the small fire Vincent had built. "He owns the saloon there." "Owns half the town, really? Clayton Marsh." She spat the name like poison. "He found out I was planning to leave, beat me so bad I could not walk for 3 days, but he made a mistake. He got drunk and passed out, and I ran." Vincent poked at the fire with a stick, his jaw tight. He had heard of Clayton Marsh. Most people in these mountains had. The man had a reputation for being ruthless in business and worse in private. "He is looking for you. He has men everywhere. $500 reward for whoever brings me back alive." Rose hugged herself, shivering despite the fire. "I thought if I could just hide long enough, he would give up, or maybe I would freeze to death first. Either way, I would be free." "That is not much of a plan," Vincent said, pulling out a piece of dried venison from his pack. He handed it to her, and after a moment of hesitation, she took it and ate like someone who had forgotten what food tasted like. "When did you last eat?" 4 days ago. I had some hardtack, but it ran out." Vincent studied her in the firelight. Even half-starved and terrified, she was beautiful, but it was more than that. There was strength in her, a core of steel that all the suffering had not managed to break. "I have a cabin," he said. "About 8 miles north of here, deep in the high country where nobody goes unless they have got a death wish or are running from something. It is not fancy, but it is warm and defensible. You can stay there while we figure out what to do about Marsh." "Why would you help me?" Rose asked, suspicion mixing with desperate hope in her eyes. "You do not know me." "I know enough," Vincent said. "I know no woman should have to live in a cave because she is more afraid of her husband than starvation. And I know that if Marsh is the kind of man who beats his wife and sends bounty hunters after her, then he is exactly the kind of man who needs to learn he cannot own people." Rose was quiet for a long moment, studying his face. "You could collect that reward yourself." $500 is a lot of money." "I've got enough money," Vincent said, which was not entirely true, but true enough. "What I have not got is patience for men who hurt women and think they can get away with it because they have got money and power." "He will kill you if you interfere," Rose said softly. "He has killed people before. Everyone knows it, but nobody can prove it." Vincent met her eyes steadily. "He can try." They left the cave the next morning after Vincent had scouted the area to make sure no one was watching. Rose could barely walk, her feet badly frostbitten and her body weakened by exposure and starvation. Without asking permission, Vincent picked her up and carried her, feeling how light she was, how her bones pressed sharp against his arms. She stiffened at first, but exhaustion won out and she eventually relaxed against his chest, her head tucked under his chin. The journey to his cabin took most of the day, with Vincent moving carefully through the deep snow, constantly alert for signs of other people. Rose drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes murmuring things that did not quite make sense, fever words about broken bottles and locked doors and blood on white sheets. When they finally reached the cabin, tucked into a narrow valley surrounded by towering pines and sheer rock faces, Rose stirred and looked around with dim surprise. "This is really your home?" "Has been for 3 years now," Vincent said, pushing the door open with his shoulder. The cabin was small but solidly built, with a stone fireplace, a real bed with a mattress stuffed with pine needles and moss, a table and 2 chairs he had made himself, and shelves lined with supplies. "Not much to look at, but it keeps the cold out." He set her down on the bed gently, then moved to build up the fire. Once the flames were crackling, he heated water and found clean cloth for bandages. Rose watched him with wide eyes as he knelt beside the bed and carefully cleaned her frostbitten feet, his touch gentle despite his rough, calloused hands. "You have done this before," she said. "Had frostbite myself once. Nearly lost 3 toes." Vincent wrapped her feet carefully. "You were lucky. Another few days and you would have been in real trouble." "I do not feel lucky," Rose whispered, tears suddenly streaming down her face. "I am sorry. I do not mean to cry. I just cannot seem to stop." Vincent stood and pulled a blanket over her, tucking it around her shoulders. "You have got nothing to apologize for. Sleep. You are safe here." "How can you be sure?" "Because I will make sure of it," Vincent said simply. Over the next week, Vincent nursed Rose back to health with the same patient determination he brought to everything in his life. He made her eat even when she said she was not hungry, forced her to drink water mixed with pine needle tea to fight off sickness, and changed her bandages twice a day. He gave her his bed and slept on the floor near the fire, his rifle always within reach. Rose slowly began to look more human and less like a frightened ghost. Color returned to her cheeks. Her eyes lost some of their haunted quality. She started to talk more, sharing pieces of her story in fragments that Vincent carefully pieced together. She had married Clayton Marsh when she was 19, fresh off the wagon train from Ohio with her parents dead from cholera and nowhere else to go. He had seemed kind at first, generous and charming. The violence had started small, an occasional slap when he was drunk, harsh words that left bruises on her spirit if not her body. But it had escalated over 3 years until she was a prisoner in her own home, until every day was a calculation of survival. "I tried to leave before," she admitted one evening as they sat by the fire after supper. Vincent had shot a rabbit that morning and made a stew with potatoes and wild onions. 8 months ago. I made it as far as Denver. He found me in 3 days and dragged me back. He broke my arm that time. Told everyone I had fallen down the stairs. Vincent felt anger burn hot in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. You are not going back. Whatever it takes, you are not going back to him. He owns paradise, Rose said tiredly. He has the sheriff in his pocket, half the judges in Colorado territory. What can one man do against that? More than you would think, Vincent said. I am not without resources of my own. That was true enough. Before Vincent had retreated to the mountains, he had been a different man. He had served as a cavalry scout during the war, then spent 2 years as a deputy marshal in Kansas, before the violence and corruption had sickened him enough to walk away. He still had contacts, people who owed him favors, marshals and soldiers who remembered when Vincent Stratton had been someone who mattered. But more than that, he had something Clayton Marsh would never understand. He had the mountains. He knew every trail and pass, every hidden valley and secret cave. In his world, on his territory, he was unbeatable. I should leave, Rose said quietly. Every day I stay here, I am putting you in danger. You are not going anywhere until you are healed, Vincent said firmly. After that, if you want to leave, I will help you get somewhere safe. But it will be your choice, not Marsh's. Rose looked at him across the firelight, something shifting in her expression. Why are you really doing this? And do not tell me it is just because you are a good man. Nobody is that good. Vincent was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to answer. My mother, he said finally. My father was a drunk, mean as a snake when he had whiskey in him. He used to beat her near senseless. I was too small to stop him. By the time I was big enough, she was already dead. I swore then that I would never stand by and let a woman suffer if I had the power to stop it. I am sorry, Rose said softly. So am I. Vincent stood and added another log to the fire. Get some rest. Tomorrow I am going to teach you to shoot. Rose's eyes widened. What? If you are going to survive out here, you need to know how to defend yourself. Not just from Marsh, but from bears and mountain lions and anyone else who might mean you harm. He pulled his spare revolver from a shelf and checked the action. I am not always going to be around to protect you, so you need to be able to protect yourself. The next morning dawned clear and cold, the kind of winter day when the sky was so blue it hurt to look at, and the air was sharp enough to cut. Vincent set up a target, a piece of wood with a circle carved into it, about 30 feet from the cabin door. Shooting is about patience more than anything else, he told Rose, standing behind her and guiding her arms into position. He tried not to notice how perfectly she fit against him, how her hair smelled like pine smoke and something sweetly her own. Do not jerk the trigger. Squeeze it slow and steady, like you are trying not to wake someone up. Rose's first shot went wide, kicking up snow 2 feet from the target. Her second was better. By her 10th try, she hit the edge of the circle, and Vincent saw the flash of fierce pride in her eyes. Good, he said. Real good. Try again. They practiced every day, and Vincent watched Rose transform before his eyes. The frightened, broken woman from the cave was still there, still surfaced sometimes in the way she flinched at sudden noises or woke gasping from nightmares. But she was becoming something else too, something stronger, something dangerous in the best possible way. One night, 3 weeks after he had found her, Vincent woke to find Rose sitting by the fire, his rifle across her knees, staring at the door. What is wrong? He asked, reaching for his revolver. I heard something. Movement outside. Vincent listened, his senses immediately sharp. There. The soft crunch of snow under careful feet. More than one person trying to be quiet. He moved to the window and peered through a gap in the shutters. In the moonlight, he could see 3 men moving toward the cabin, rifles in hand. Marsh's men, Rose whispered, her face pale. Probably. Vincent checked his weapons, his mind racing through options. Can you shoot as well as you have been practicing? I think so. Then I need you to trust me. He handed her a revolver and a box of ammunition. There is a root cellar under that trapdoor by the bed. Get down there and cover the entrance. If anyone besides me tries to open it, shoot them. What are you going to do? Have a conversation with these gentlemen about the concept of private property. Vincent did not give Rose time to argue. He opened the door and stepped out into the cold, his rifle held loosely but ready. The 3 men froze, not expecting him to come to them. That is far enough, Vincent called out. State your business or get off my land. One of the men, a tall fellow with a pockmarked face and a deputy's badge pinned to his coat, stepped forward. We are looking for a woman, Rose Marsh. She is wanted for theft. Theft, Vincent's voice was flat. That is creative. Her husband claims she stole $500 before she ran. The deputy's smile did not reach his eyes. We have a warrant for her arrest. You hiding her, Stratton, so they knew his name. That complicated things. I found a woman half frozen in a cave 2 weeks back. I brought her here to keep her from dying. Did not catch a name and did not ask for one. She left 3 days ago, headed west as far as I know. Mind if we search your cabin? Yes, Vincent said pleasantly. I mind very much. You have got no jurisdiction up here, Taggart. Paradise is 15 miles that way. This is my land and I am telling you to leave. The deputy, Taggart, exchanged glances with his companions. We could make this difficult. You could try, Vincent agreed, but I know all 3 of you. I know Taggart lives in a little house on the east side of Paradise with his wife and 4 children. I know Billy there has a mother in Denver who depends on the money he sends her. And I know that Jake has a sister working in the saloon who would be real upset if anything happened to her baby brother. Now, I am not saying I would do anything to those people. But if you 3 disappear up here in the mountains, Marsh is going to send more men to find out what happened. And those men might disappear too. Eventually, he is going to wonder if it is worth it. You threatening us? Billy asked, his voice cracking slightly. I am promising you, Vincent said. Rose Marsh is not here. Even if she was, she is a grown woman who does not want to go back to a man who beats her bloody. You all know what Marsh is. You know what he does. You can collect his money and help him drag that poor girl back to hell, or you can leave now and tell him you searched and found nothing. Your choice. The 3 men stood in the cold, breath steaming, weighing their options. Finally, Taggart spat in the snow. We will tell Marsh what you said, but he is not going to let this go. I am counting on it, Vincent said. After they left, Vincent went back inside and opened the trapdoor. Rose climbed out of the root cellar, the revolver still in her hand, her eyes wide. What happened? They left, for now. Vincent secured the door and checked the shutters. But Marsh knows you are here, or at least suspects. We need to make plans. I should leave tonight. Before he sends more men. Vincent turned to face her. Where would you go, Rose? How far do you think you would get in this snow with no supplies and no real survival skills? You are better now, stronger, but you are not ready for that. I cannot ask you to die for me, Rose said, her voice breaking. You have already risked so much. You are not asking, I am offering. Vincent crossed the room and took her hands in his, feeling how cold they were. Listen to me. I have been alone in these mountains for 3 years and I chose that. I wanted it. But these past few weeks, having you here, it has reminded me what it is like to have something worth protecting. Someone worth protecting. I am not letting Marsh take you. Rose looked up at him, tears spilling down her cheeks. I am so tired of being afraid. I am so tired of running. "Then stop running," Vincent said softly. "Stand and fight with me." She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his chest, and Vincent wrapped his arms around her, holding her while she cried. It felt right in a way nothing had felt right in years. He had been dead inside for so long, going through the motions of living without really feeling anything. But Rose had changed that. She had brought him back to life without even trying. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were red but clear. "What do? We turn the tables," Vincent said. "Marsh wants you back because you ran, because you defied him. Men like that, it is all about control. He will send more men, probably more than 3 next time. Maybe 10 or 12. We cannot fight that many, but we do not have to. We just need to make him come himself." "Come here. To the cabin." "Not here exactly," Vincent said, his mind already working through the details. "But close. Somewhere I can control the terrain, where his numbers do not matter, and once I have him, we make him pay for what he did to you." Rose shook her head slowly. "He will not come himself. He is a coward. He only fights when he knows he will win. He will come if we give him the right bait. He will come if he thinks he is getting everything he wants." Vincent moved to the table and spread out a hand-drawn map of the region. "There is a place, an old mining camp about 5 miles south of here. It is in a box canyon, only one way in or out. If we can lure Marsh and his men there, we will have the high ground." "And then what?" Rose asked. "You shoot them all. That makes you a murderer." "No," Vincent said. "Then I give him a choice. Leave Colorado territory and never come back, or I take the evidence of his crimes to the federal marshal in Denver. I have been gathering information on Marsh ever since I got up here. He has been involved in claim jumping, assault, probably murder. The locals might be too scared to testify against him, but there are people outside Paradise who would talk if they knew they would be protected." Rose studied the map, her expression thoughtful. "He would never agree. He would rather die than lose everything he has built." "Maybe. But at least the choice would be his." Vincent looked at her. "I am not going to murder anyone in cold blood, Rose. I want justice, not revenge. Though if he forces my hand, I will do what I have to do to protect you." "When?" Rose asked. "Soon. We need to send him a message, something that will make him angry enough to come after us himself." Vincent thought for a moment. "How much do you know about his business dealings?" "Enough. I used to keep his books before he decided I was too much trouble." Rose's eyes narrowed. "I know where he hides his money. Not in the bank. He does not trust banks. There is a safe in his office behind a painting of some Roman emperor. I know the combination." Vincent smiled slowly. "Do you now?" Over the next week they planned carefully, working out every detail. Vincent made the trip to Paradise 3 times, always at night, always careful to avoid being seen. He mapped out the layout of the saloon, identified which of Marsh's men could be bought and which were too loyal to turn, and gathered more evidence of crimes. On the 4th night, Vincent and Rose rode into Paradise together. It was past midnight, the streets empty except for the sound of piano music drifting from the saloon. They left their horses at the edge of town and moved through the shadows like ghosts. The saloon's back door was locked, but Vincent made short work of it with a piece of wire. Inside, the building was dark except for lamplight showing under the door of the office on the 2nd floor. Vincent could hear voices, Marsh and at least 2 other men, arguing about something. "Wait here," he whispered to Rose, but she shook her head. "No, I am coming with you. I need to face him. I need to show him I am not afraid anymore." Vincent wanted to argue, but he saw the determination in her eyes and knew it would be pointless. "Stay behind me." They moved up the stairs, and Vincent tried the office door. Unlocked. Careless, he pushed it open and stepped inside, his revolver drawn. Clayton Marsh was a big man, well dressed in a silk vest and expensive boots, with dark hair slicked back and a handlebar mustache that probably took him an hour to maintain every morning. He looked up from his desk in surprise, then saw Rose, and his face transformed into something ugly. "You stupid girl," he snarled, starting to rise. "You stupid, worthless girl. I am going to make you regret ever being born." "Sit down," Vincent said quietly, his gun steady. "You too as well." He gestured to the other men in the room, both of whom he recognized from town. "Hands where I can see them." Marsh slowly sank back into his chair, his eyes never leaving Rose. "So you are the fool hiding my wife. Vincent Stratton, I know all about you. Washed-up lawman playing hermit in the mountains. You have made a big mistake." "That remains to be seen," Vincent said. "Rose, the safe." Rose moved past him, and Vincent saw her hands were steady as she removed the painting and worked the combination. The safe opened with a soft click, and inside were stacks of bills and several ledgers. Rose pulled out the ledgers and tucked them under her arm. "You are stealing from me." Marsh's voice was incredulous. "You think that is going to help you? I will have every lawman in Colorado hunting you both." "These ledgers show every illegal deal you have made in the last 5 years," Rose said, her voice cold. "Claim jumping, bribing officials, the protection racket you run on the Chinese miners. It is all here in your own handwriting. No one will believe you. You are just a hysterical woman making up lies." "Maybe," Vincent said, "but the federal marshal might be interested. Especially when we add in what you did to Rose. I've got a doctor in Denver who is willing to document her injuries and testify about how they were inflicted. Turns out there is a pattern. You are not as careful as you think." Marsh's face was turning purple. "You have no idea who you are dealing with. I have friends, powerful friends." "Had," Vincent corrected. Past tense. Because after tonight, you are not going to be powerful anymore. You are going to leave Colorado tonight. Take whatever you can carry and get on a horse and ride. Go to California or Mexico, or hell for all I care. But if you are still in this territory come sunrise, I am taking these ledgers to Denver and telling everyone what you are." "You cannot force me to leave my own town," Marsh said, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. "Yes, I can," Vincent said. "Because if you stay, I am going to kill you. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. Every day you stay, you will be looking over your shoulder, wondering when I am coming. You will not be able to sleep. You will not be able to trust anyone. And one day, when you least expect it, I will be there. That is a promise." The room was silent except for the ticking of a clock on the mantel. Finally, one of Marsh's men stood up slowly. "I am out, Clayton. This has gotten too crazy for me." He looked at Vincent. "I am leaving." "That okay with you?" Vincent nodded, and the man walked out. The other one followed a moment later, leaving just the three of them. Marsh looked at Rose, and for a moment Vincent saw something almost human in his eyes. Regret, maybe, or loss. "I loved you," he said. "In my way, I loved you." "No," Rose said firmly. "You loved owning me. That is not the same thing." Marsh stood slowly, his movements careful. "You are making a mistake, Rose. You think he is better than me. He is just another violent man. Give it time and he will hurt you too. It is what men do." "Maybe," Rose said. "But that will be my choice to make, not yours. I am not your property anymore, Clayton. I am not anyone's property. I am free, and if you ever come near me again, I will kill you myself." Vincent saw truth in her eyes and knew Marsh saw it too. The man who had terrorized her for 3 years had finally pushed her far enough that she had become dangerous. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Marsh picked up a small bag from under his desk and walked toward the door. At the threshold, he turned back. "This is not over." "Yes, it is," Vincent said. "It is over because you are going to make it over. Because deep down, under all that pride and anger, you know you have already lost. And you are too smart to keep fighting a war you cannot win. After Marsh left, Vincent and Rose stood in the office for a long moment, neither quite believing it had worked. Then Rose started laughing, a slightly hysterical sound that turned into sobs. Vincent holstered his gun and pulled her close, letting her cry against his chest while years of pain and fear finally found release. They left Paradise that night with the Ledgers and rode hard for Vincent's cabin. Behind them, they heard shouting and the sound of horses, but no one followed them into the high country. Marsh's power over the town had been absolute, but it had also been built on fear. With their leader gone and his crimes exposed, his men scattered like leaves in the wind. Back at the cabin, as dawn was breaking over the mountains, Rose built up the fire while Vincent made coffee. They were both exhausted, running on nerves and adrenaline, but neither wanted to sleep yet. "You think he really left?" Rose asked, cupping her hands around a tin mug. "I think so. Men like Marsh, when you take away their power, there is not much left." Vincent sat down beside her. "And even if he did not leave, even if he is still out there planning revenge, you are not alone anymore. We will face it together." Rose looked at him over the rim of her mug, her green eyes soft in the firelight. "Why did you really do all this, Vincent? And I want the truth this time." Vincent was quiet for a moment, trying to find the right words. "That first day I found you in the cave, I thought I was saving you. But the truth is, you saved me. I had given up on people, on caring about anything except surviving. But you reminded me what it is like to feel something again, to want to protect something, to want to build something instead of just hiding from the world." "I am afraid," Rose admitted softly. "Not of Clayton anymore, but of this, of feeling this way about someone again. What if I am broken? What if I cannot be what you need?" Vincent reached out and took her hand. "You are not broken. You are bent and scarred and you have been through hell, but you are not broken. And I am not asking you to be anything except yourself. We will figure out the rest as we go." Rose set down her mug and moved closer until their shoulders were touching. "I have never had this before. With Clayton, it was always about what he wanted, what he needed. I was just there to serve him. But with you, it feels different. It feels like you actually see me." "I do see you," Vincent said. "I see someone brave and strong and beautiful. I see someone who survived when most people would have given up. I see someone I could spend the rest of my life with and count myself the luckiest man alive." Rose turned to face him fully, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I think I'm falling in love with you. Is that crazy, after everything that has happened?" "If it is crazy, then I am crazy too," Vincent said, cupping her face gently. "Because I am falling in love with you, Rose Lancaster. Have been since the moment I saw you in that cave, all defiant and fierce even though you were half dead from cold and hunger." When they kissed, it was gentle at first, tentative, both of them afraid of breaking something fragile and precious. But then Rose made a small sound and pressed closer, and the kiss deepened into something that felt like coming home. Vincent had kissed women before, but never like this, never with this sense of rightness and completion. They pulled apart finally, breathless and smiling. "We should probably sleep," Rose said. "We have been up all night." "Probably," Vincent agreed, but neither of them moved. They sat together by the fire as the sun rose higher, talking about everything and nothing, sharing pieces of their pasts and dreams for their futures. Rose told him about growing up in Ohio, about her parents and the journey west that had ended in tragedy. Vincent told her about the war, about the things he had seen and done that still haunted his dreams. "You ever regret leaving civilization?" Rose asked. "Coming up here to be alone?" "I did not used to," Vincent said, "but now I think maybe I was not leaving civilization. I was looking for something better, something real, and I found it when I found you." Over the following weeks, they fell into a routine that felt both comfortable and exciting. Vincent taught Rose everything he knew about surviving in the mountains: how to track game and identify edible plants, how to read the weather and navigate by the stars. Rose taught Vincent about gentler things: how to make bread that did not taste like rocks, how to mend clothes properly, how to find beauty in small moments. They shared the bed now, not as husband and wife yet, but with the understanding that they would be eventually. Vincent was careful with her, never pushing, always giving her control. Some nights they just held each other, and that was enough. Other nights they talked until dawn. And sometimes, when Rose felt safe enough and brave enough, they shared kisses that left them both shaking with want and need. "I want to be your wife," Rose said one morning in late March as they sat outside the cabin watching the snow melt. "Really your wife, in every way, but I cannot until I am free, until I know for certain that my marriage to Clayton is over." "We will get you a divorce," Vincent promised. "Or an annulment if we can prove he beat you. There are judges in Denver who are not in Marsh's pocket. It might take time, but we will do it right." "I love you," Rose said, leaning against him. "I know I have said it before, but I want to keep saying it. I want to say it every day for the rest of my life." "I love you too," Vincent said, kissing the top of her head. "And I am going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret choosing me." In April, they made the journey to Denver, riding down out of the mountains with the ledgers and Rose's testimony. The federal marshal, a hard-eyed man named Garrett who had served with Vincent during the war, listened to their story with growing anger. "I have been hearing rumors about Marsh for years," Garrett said, flipping through the ledgers, "but no one would testify, too scared. This is solid evidence. We can bring charges, federal charges." "What about Rose?" Vincent asked. "She wants a divorce." "Annulment would be easier and faster," Garrett said, looking at Rose with sympathy. "With evidence of abuse and your testimony, any judge worth his salt will grant it. I know someone who can help. Judge Morrison. He is fair and he does not take kindly to men who beat their wives." The legal process took 3 months, but in July of 1876, Rose Lancaster was officially declared free of Clayton Marsh. The marriage was annulled as though it had never existed, and Marsh himself was indicted on multiple charges. He never came back to Colorado. Rumor had it he died in a gunfight in Arizona Territory 2 years later, but Vincent never confirmed it and did not much care. What mattered was that Rose was free. And on a beautiful summer day, with wildflowers blooming across the mountain meadows and the sky the impossible blue that only exists in high country, Vincent and Rose were married by a circuit preacher in a small church in Denver. They had no guests except Marshal Garrett and his wife, but they did not need anyone else. It was just the two of them, promising to love and honor and cherish each other for the rest of their lives. "I do," Rose said, her voice clear and strong, her eyes bright with tears. "I do choose you, Vincent Stratton, today and every day." "I do too," Vincent said, sliding a simple gold band onto her finger. "You are mine and I am yours, now and always." Their wedding night was spent in a hotel room in Denver, and for the first time, Rose came to Vincent without fear or hesitation. She was his wife in truth now, and he treated her with all the tenderness and passion she deserved. They learned each other slowly, carefully, turning the act into something beautiful and healing. Afterward, lying tangled together in the lamplight, Rose traced the scars on Vincent's chest and said, "This is what happiness feels like. I had almost forgotten." "We will make sure you never forget again," Vincent promised, pulling her close. They returned to the cabin, but it was different now. It was not just Vincent's cabin anymore. It was their home. Rose planted a garden in the clearing, coaxing vegetables from the rocky soil with determination and patience. Vincent built her a chicken coop and traded for 6 hens in the nearest settlement. They added curtains to the windows and a rug on the floor, small touches that made the cabin feel less like a refuge and more like a place where a life was being built. In the fall, Rose realized she was pregnant. She told Vincent one evening after supper, her voice trembling with a mixture of joy and fear. "I am carrying our child. Are you happy?" Vincent swept her into his arms and spun her around until she was laughing. "Happy? I am the happiest man who ever lived. We are going to have a baby, our baby." "I am scared," Rose admitted. "What if I cannot do this? What if I am not a good mother?" "You are going to be an amazing mother," Vincent said firmly. "And I am going to be here with you every step of the way. We are in this together." The pregnancy was not easy. The isolation and harsh conditions of mountain living made everything harder. But Vincent was patient and devoted, making sure Rose ate enough, keeping the cabin warm, holding her hair back when morning sickness struck. He read to her from the few books they owned, made her laugh with stories about his days as a scout, and rubbed her aching back every night. In April of 1877, their son was born during a late-season snowstorm that trapped them inside for 3 days. Vincent delivered the baby himself with shaking hands and whispered prayers, catching the squalling infant and placing him on Rose's chest with tears streaming down his face. "A boy," Rose breathed, exhausted and radiant. "We have a son. What should we name him?" Vincent asked, carefully cleaning the baby with warm water. Rose thought for a moment, looking at her husband with love. "Victor. Victor Stratton. It means winter conqueror. He conquered winter to be born, and we conquered everything that tried to destroy us to make him." "Victor," Vincent repeated, trying it out. "I love it. Hello, Victor. I am your father and this is your mother, and we are going to love you for the rest of our lives." Being parents transformed them both in ways they had not expected. Vincent, who had been content with solitude for years, found himself planning for the future, thinking about how to expand the cabin, where to build a school, how to make sure Victor had opportunities. Rose, who had been so broken by her first marriage, bloomed into someone confident and strong, fierce in her love for her son and husband. They were not without challenges. The first winter with a baby was hard, and there were nights when Victor would not stop crying and Rose would weep from exhaustion. But they faced it together, taking turns walking the floor with their son, supporting each other through the difficult moments. When Victor was 2 years old, Rose became pregnant again. This time she was less afraid and more excited, and in the fall of 1879 they welcomed a daughter. They named her Violet, and she had her mother's green eyes and her father's stubborn determination. "2 children," Rose said, nursing Violet while Victor played with wooden blocks Vincent had carved. "Sometimes I cannot believe this is my life, that I get to have this." "Believe it," Vincent said, sitting beside her and putting his arm around her shoulders. "You deserve all of this and more." As the children grew, so did their little homestead. Vincent built an addition onto the cabin, giving them more room. He taught Victor to ride and hunt, passing on all the skills that had kept him alive in the mountains. Rose taught both children to read and write, using the Bible and a handful of other books as textbooks. In 1882, when Victor was 5 and Violet was 3, Vincent and Rose made the decision to move closer to civilization. Not back to Paradise, which had become a near ghost town after Marsh's empire collapsed, but to a small settlement called Silver Creek about 20 miles north. It was still mountain country, but there were other families there, a school, a church, and a general store. They bought land with money Vincent had saved and built a proper house, bigger than the cabin but still modest. Rose started a small business making and selling preserves and pickles, while Vincent worked as a hunting guide for wealthy tourists from back east who wanted to experience the wilderness safely. Life was good. Not perfect, but good. There were hard seasons when money was tight and winters when sickness swept through the valley. But they faced everything together, their love growing deeper and stronger with each passing year. In 1885, Rose surprised Vincent with news of a third pregnancy. She was 31 now and he was 32, and they had thought their family was complete. But Rose glowed with happiness, and Vincent could not help but share her joy. "Are you sure we are not too old for this?" Vincent teased, his hand on her still flat belly. "We are not even middle-aged yet," Rose laughed. "And I want this baby. I want to fill our house with children and love and noise." Their third child, a son they named Vaughn, was born in January of 1886 during the coldest winter in memory. He was a healthy, loud baby who seemed determined to make his presence known from the first moment. Victor and Violet were thrilled to have a baby brother, and the house rang with laughter and chaos. "This is everything I never knew I wanted," Rose told Vincent one night after the children were finally asleep. They were sitting by the fire, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. "A home, a family, someone who loves me. You gave me all of this." "We gave it to each other," Vincent corrected gently. "You saved me just as much as I saved you, Rose. Maybe more. Before you, I was just going through the motions of living. You taught me how to actually live." Over the years, they watched their children grow into remarkable people. Victor inherited his father's skill with horses and hunting, but he also had his mother's kindness and became known throughout the valley as someone who would help anyone in need. Violet was fierce and independent, with a sharp mind and sharper tongue, who eventually became a teacher. Vaughn was the peacemaker of the family, gentle and thoughtful, with a gift for music that delighted everyone who heard him play, the fiddle Vincent bought him for his 10th birthday. Rose and Vincent grew older together, their hair turning gray, their bodies marked by years of hard work and raising children. But they were happy in a way that ran bone deep. They had built something real and lasting, not just a family but a legacy. In 1895, when Victor was 18, he fell in love with a girl from Silver Creek named Sarah. The courtship was sweet and proper, and when Victor asked for Vincent's blessing to marry her, Vincent gave it gladly. "You found a good one," Vincent told his son. "Someone kind and strong." That is what matters in a marriage. Not money or status, but finding someone who will stand with you through everything. "Like you and Mother," Victor said. "Like us," Vincent agreed. The wedding was in May, with half the valley in attendance. Rose cried through the entire ceremony, holding Vincent's hand tight. "Our baby is all grown up," she whispered. "He is going to be fine," Vincent assured her. "We raised him right." A year later, Violet announced she was leaving for Denver to attend the new teachers' college that had opened there. It was a difficult decision for everyone, but Rose and Vincent supported her, knowing she needed to find her own path. "You are going to do amazing things," Rose told her daughter as they said goodbye at the train station. "I am so proud of you." "I learned from the best," Violet said, hugging her mother tight. "You showed me that women can be strong and independent, that we do not have to settle for lives we do not want." Vaughn stayed in Silver Creek, learning carpentry and helping Vincent with the guide business. He was 17 now, thoughtful and kind, and Vincent knew he would find his way in time. In 1898, Victor and Sarah gave Rose and Vincent their first grandchild, a boy they named after Vincent. Holding his grandson for the first time, Vincent felt something shift in his chest, a profound sense of continuity and completion. "We did good," he told Rose that night. "We did," she agreed, smiling. "We took all that pain and fear and turned it into something beautiful." The years continued to pass, bringing more grandchildren, more joy and inevitable sorrow. Friends grew old and passed away. The valley changed as more people moved in and the old ways faded. But through it all, Vincent and Rose remained constants in each other's lives. On their 25th wedding anniversary in 1901, Vincent took Rose back to the cabin in the high country where they had fallen in love. It was still there, weathered but standing, a testament to what they had built together. "I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had not found you that day," Vincent said as they stood in the clearing holding hands. "If I had taken a different path, if that bear had not been chasing me." "I would have died in that cave," Rose said simply. "And you would have stayed alone in these mountains. But that is not what happened. You found me, or I found you, or maybe we found each other. And everything that came after was worth every moment of pain that came before." Vincent pulled her close and kissed her, and it felt exactly the same as it had that first time in the cabin all those years ago. "I love you, Rose Stratton. I loved you then, I love you now, and I will love you until my last breath." "And I love you," Rose said. "My mountain man who saved me and let me save him back." They stayed at the cabin for a week, just the two of them, reliving memories and making new ones. When they returned to Silver Creek, they found their house full of family. Victor and Sarah with their 3 children, Vaughn with the girl he had been courting, and Violet home from Denver for a visit with news that she was engaged to a lawyer. "Our family keeps growing," Rose said, looking around the crowded table at dinner that night. "That is because we built it on love," Vincent said. "And love is the one thing that never runs out if you keep giving it away." As the years passed, Vincent and Rose settled into a comfortable rhythm. They were grandparents now, then great-grandparents, watching their family tree spread branches in all directions. They told stories about the old days, about the cave and the cabin and Clayton Marsh, though they always edited the worst parts for the children's ears. In the spring of 1914, Rose fell ill with pneumonia. She was 60 years old, and despite Vincent's devoted care and the doctor's best efforts, she grew weaker. Vincent stayed by her bedside day and night, holding her hand, reading to her, telling her stories about their life together. "I am not ready to lose you," he said one night, tears streaming down his face. "You are not losing me," Rose said, her voice weak but clear. "I am just going ahead to wait for you, and you have to promise me you will keep living, Vincent, keep loving our family. Keep being the man I fell in love with. Promise me." "I promise," Vincent said, though it broke his heart. Rose died peacefully 2 days later with Vincent holding her hand and all their children gathered around. At her funeral, the church was packed with people whose lives she had touched over the years. Vincent stood and spoke about the woman he had found in a cave, the woman who had said she was hiding, the woman he had told she was not hiding anymore. "She spent the rest of her life proving that true," Vincent said. "She never hid again. She faced everything with courage and grace. She loved fiercely and without reservation, and she made me a better man than I ever thought I could be." After Rose's death, Vincent moved back to the old cabin in the high country. His children worried, but he assured them he was fine. He just needed to be close to her memory for a while, in the place where their love story had really begun. Vincent lived another 6 years, spending his days maintaining the cabin, hunting and writing down all the stories he had told his children over the years. He filled notebooks with memories of Rose, wanting to make sure future generations would know about the remarkable woman who had been his wife. In the summer of 1920, Vincent Stratton died in his sleep at the age of 69. He was found by his grandson Victor, who had come to check on him. On the table beside his bed was an open notebook, the last entry a letter to Rose. "My dearest Rose," it read. I hope you have not been waiting too long. I tried to keep my promise to keep living and loving like you asked. But I am tired now, and I miss you more than words can say. I am ready to come find you wherever you are. Wait for me at the entrance to that cave. I will be the one coming down the mountain with a smile on my face because I know that soon, very soon, I will get to hold you again. All my love, forever, Vincent. At his funeral, Violet read from her father's journals, sharing the story of how he had found their mother, how he had told her she was not hiding anymore, how they had fallen in love in a cabin in the mountains and built a life together against all odds. They taught us that love is worth fighting for, Violet said, her voice steady despite her tears. That two broken people can heal each other. That family is not just blood, but choice and commitment and showing up every single day. They taught us how to live and how to love. And their story will live on through all of us. Vincent and Rose were buried side by side in the Silver Creek Cemetery, under a large pine tree with a view of the mountains they had both loved. Their headstone was simple. Vincent Stratton, 1851–1920, Rose Stratton, 1854–1914, he found her hiding. Together they found home. Their descendants continued to thrive in Colorado, spreading across the state and eventually across the country. But every few years, someone would make the pilgrimage back to the cabin in the high country, to the place where it all began. They would stand in the clearing and tell the story of the mountain man and the woman in the cave, keeping the memory alive. And sometimes, visitors to the cabin swore they could feel something there, a warmth that had nothing to do with the sun, a sense of love so strong it had soaked into the very walls. The cabin stood for decades, then a century, maintained by Vincent and Rose's descendants as a tribute to where their family had truly begun. The story of Vincent and Rose became part of Colorado's history, passed down through generations. Not as a tale of violence or conquest, but as a reminder that even in the hardest times, even in the wildest places, love could take root and flourish. That two people who had every reason to give up had instead chosen to fight, to hope, and to build something beautiful together. It was a story about second chances and redemption, about finding courage in the darkest moments and choosing love over fear. It was a story about the Wild West, but also about the universal human need for connection, for home, for someone to stand with when the world became too much to face alone. And in the end, it was a story that never really ended. It continued in every child born to their descendants, in every act of courage and kindness, in every couple who chose love despite the odds. Vincent and Rose's legacy was not just the family they created, but the example they set, the proof that love could heal even the deepest wounds. The cave, where Vincent first found Rose, eventually collapsed in a rockslide in the 1930s. But by then, it did not matter. The real monument to their love was not a place, but the lives they had touched, the family they had raised, and the story that would be told for generations to come. In Silver Creek, there stands a historical marker now, installed in 1976 for the nation's bicentennial. It tells the story of Vincent Stratton and Rose Lancaster, of how they found each other in the wilderness and built a life together. Tourists sometimes stop to read it, drawn by the simple poetry of the tale. But the real story, the full story with all its complexity and beauty and pain and triumph, lives on in the journals Vincent wrote, in the recipes Rose passed down, in the traditions they started and the values they instilled. Their great-great-great-grandchildren still gather sometimes in Silver Creek for reunions, still make the hike up to the old cabin, still tell the story of how it all began, the story of a mountain man who found a woman living in a cave. who heard her say she was hiding and told her she was not hiding anymore, who chose to fight for her when he could have walked away, who fell in love with her strength and courage, who built a life with her that lasted beyond death itself. It was a love story, pure and simple. Not perfect, not easy, but real and true and lasting. The kind of love story that deserved to be remembered, to be told and retold, to inspire others to believe that love was always worth fighting for, no matter the cost. And so the story continues, generation after generation, a testament to the power of love and the enduring human spirit. Vincent and Rose Stratton lived and loved and left behind something that would never die, a legacy written not in stone or gold, but in the hearts of everyone who heard their tale and believed, even for a moment, that love could conquer anything.